Hello again, and it's time for another project. Today we're going to route out this Jurassic Park logo crest, but instead of the Jurassic Park, it literally just have my surname in there. So I played about a bit, got it all sorted. Wanted the letter slightly longer, so we extended the plaque underneath, and we get the basic dinosaur image there. So it's not Jurassic Park, it's going to be the Northridge Park. Okay, as always, we've printed it out, we've placed it onto our plywood today. Cheap nasty plywood. Now I've only used this the once. This is about 1/2 inch, 10 mil, something like that, 10mm. Got the 3 different pieces stuck together. I have done a butterfly on a previous video, and there was something else along the lines, and it's okay. You might get the odd little chip out and stuff. If you just look at the end here where we've sawn it off, it does get quite rough. And I'm going to take a chance and just have a play about. This is just something that can hang up inside the shed, so it's of no importance. You definitely can't beat routing out on decent wood. So plywood, give it a go. If it don't work, it's no big loss. So we've got our image nicely sorted out. We've got it all measured off where we all want it. We've got the good old carbon paper underneath. And let's just draw around that. It takes a matter of minutes. If you're really clever, if it was this one on a scroll saw, you can glue that straight to painter's tape on the wood and route out over the top, or cut round with a scroll saw. I've tried once to route over paper, never again. It just didn't work for me. So good old carbon paper, and we draw it on like so. And there's our image for the day. I have made the teeth slightly bigger, and I'm not too bothered about the detail at the bottom here, because I'm going to take a chance on going around that with a router bit, and hopefully those teeth will not pop off. If they do, that's going to be the end of this project. So we've got it all drawn out. The bits, as always, for me on this one, CNC bits. These are 10 and 15 degrees. I'm going to go for a 15 because we are going to fill this in with resin afterwards. So we're not overly concerned about the edges. You will need an adapter reducer collet, a 6.35, because they have a 3.175mm shaft on them, same size of a Dremel, and they will fit in a Dremel no problem if you want to use the Dremel router attachment. We basically just slot it into that adapter collet there, into the silver end. Now that's ready to go into a 1/4 inch shafted shank router, no problem whatsoever with that. And we'll do all the lines just to break up the section between the two halves. That makes sense. Once we've done all the line works on this, they're like needles. Hopefully they'll pin in and we won't get too much cut out on it. Once we've done that, because it is quite a small project, we're simply popping one of these end milling bits. I love these. I use these on most of my projects. And it's just a case of simply picking one we want. Nice good size, not too much detail in here. We slot it into there, up to that barrier. And that's now ready to go. You pop it into the router, and we'll set it to the same depth. Now the depth I use on is roughly 3mm on most of my projects, and that's basically the same thickness as one of your CNC bits or end milling bits. So we'll set it to that depth. I'll just show you, if we look on the side there, we have 3 different sections, and 3mm will just take off that top slice, leaving that middle one and that bottom slice in place. So hopefully it should cut out fairly well. It's going to happen. We'll get bits chipping off. But I'm not overly bothered. Like I say, it's from the Jurassic era, shall we say. So it doesn't matter if it looks too tatty and worn out. Right, we'll set this little bit in our router. We'll set it to the depth we need. And then we'll start routing this one out. Right, you can see from that we've gone round all our lettering, and we've gone around the full piece with those little CNC bits. So far so good, we've not had any issues. You also notice I've done the full circle with the bits. That middle section is going to stay, and we're going to route out either side of that line. And eventually when we get towards the end, I will be getting a scroll saw and we'll just cut it all off, leaving a little lip, just so I make a little barrier either side. We're going to pour resin into that middle piece. So we managed to get all the way around. As you get a little bit closer, you can just see there. Now obviously we've got to go and clear out in between all those teeth. So we're just shading the bits that you want to remove. You can see there, we've removed some of the CNC bits, no problem. And we've not had a little chip out so far. We shall see how we go. So it's just a simple case of removing our CNC bit. There's a 15-degree, that one, if you remember. That's basically just the angle of the piece on the end here. So you slide that out. You get a lot more projects out of that, no problem. And we're just going to slot in one of these end milling bits. These are all nice, shiny new. We'll start off with a little one, just to go in there. Push it up to that little barrier. Pop that into the router. And we can just set it to the same depth as one of these. Or we can use our piece of wood, if you remember. And we just clear around these teeth first. And then when we get to the bigger section, because obviously we've got to remove all that background. Just a simple case of popping on a bigger piece like so. They are good, these CNC end milling bits. I will put a description and links in the title. They do route out the side as well as having a rough bottom. So hopefully you get a nice smooth finish. Just remember, this is just cheap plywood. So what we see at the end is what we're going to get, to be honest. But we'll certainly get a little project out of it. So let's pop that in the router now and start clearing out the rest of this little project. Okay, we've made it all the way around with the end milling bits. Just kept the same one all the time. That come out really nice, did that. And we've not lost anything too serious, I believe. Maybe a little chip on his little claw there. But the teeth have all stayed in place, which did surprise me, to be honest. I thought we might have had a couple of chippings on there. But apart from that, everything's still in place. So we're not doing too bad at this moment in time. Now, as always for me, I like to use a flexi cable. This simply just attaches to the end of your Dremel or rotary tool. I like to use a little engraving bit inside there. There we go. They come in different sizes. You can get a packet of 30 for next to nothing. There's a few different ones here. There's round tops, flat tops. There's all sorts to play with. And I simply just get a nice flat one, like I say. And we're going to go around there. Just give it a general tidy up. We don't need to focus too much on the back section. Remember, we're going to cover all that with resin. So a quick tidy up. Good bit of sandpaper. Just get rid of those pencil lines. Remember, when you're routing out, if it's inset, route up to the line. And if you're doing outset, up to the line, up to the line. Never route out on the line. Because smaller pieces like that, if you can see the bottom section there, if you were to do it all on the line, it would just slightly alter things. So you imagine going around those teeth there. If I was to route out on the line, them teeth would be a lot smaller. So always up to your line. So good old sandpaper, little flexi cable, general tidy up, and then we'll come back and we can just cut this one out, hopefully leaving that little border all the way around before we get towards the finishing line as regards to staining it, get some nice varnish on, and then we'll start filling it in with resin. Right, that's enough tidying up and sanding down and general clearing out for me. That's definitely near enough for what I want. And I've literally just got a pencil and freehand a little border all the way around. I've not even bothered using a straight edge or anything. I'm not overly concerned. It's just a little fun project, this one, on a bit of plywood. So you can see the idea there. We're going to have a nice frame around it. This will be resined. This will be stained, as well as the frame, and then we'll have resin. You'll see how it all comes together once we get towards the finishing. So the idea now is to cut this out. You could have left it on that piece of wood if you wanted to, plywood should I say, but we're going to cut it out. Now for me, I like to use spiral blades. They're not for everybody. They are, as they say, spiraled. The teeth go spiraling the full length of the blade. They will cut in any direction. So you could literally just put your blade in there and then just feed your wood round like so. We're very rarely moving that wood too much and doing the old piece like that. I love spiral blades. They are not for everybody. With my little draper saw, I have to use these adapter clamps. They're basically just fastened at either end with an Allen key, and that would hook onto your saw, top and bottom, tying it up. It wants to be smooth on the way down and rough on the way up. That's your spiral blades. On the more cheaper basic saws, you get pin blades. They have a little pin at both ends like so. They will just slot in to your saw like that, with the blade facing towards you as always. And always have your blade feeling smooth on the way down and rough on the way up. That way you know it's in the right way. This would work perfect on this one because it's quite a decent size and nothing too complicated. The only thing with these kind of blades and the pinless blade, which is another option here, exactly the same, but it's got no pins in. They're more expensive saws. They will clamp it top and bottom. Same again, smooth on the way down, rough on the way up, and the teeth facing towards you. They're perfect if you're doing a lot of detailed work. Imagine we're going to cut inside one of these small holes here. You would drill a pilot hole, pop that in, and then cut that out if it was a scroll saw project. Whereas with your pin blades, I can just find it. You might just find it just won't fit in that hole because the pins are in the way. So pinless blades are more detailed. This is fine for this project because we are literally just going to cut all the way around the outside. But for me, spiral blades, love or hate them. I'm going to pop that in, and if you cut this out, bit of sanding down on the edges, and then we'll be on to the staining and resin side of things. Right, you can see from that we made it all the way round with our little Pegasus number 5 spiral blade. That's cut out really nice, no problem whatsoever with that, really pleased. And at least just got some sandpaper and just rounded it off, just remove any of those little bits of outline around. We've got no voids in here at all, there's no holes. Normally you would find a little hole or two. I would put a bit of wood filler in and fill it in, but there's been nothing on this one. As you can see, that's just literally as we've took it off the saw. And like I say, I've just rounded it off. Bit of sandpaper just to smooth it all down. So that's it. That's our router bit done, our scroll saw bit done. Now I just want to darken this down. Normally I put boiled linseed on here, and that darkens it down slightly. But this is the first for me again, just wood dye left over from a previous project. I'm literally just going to darken all the raised sections. Doesn't matter if we do the full piece, remember, because we're going to fill this all in with resin. So it's just a case of getting your dyes. We'll see how that soaks in there, and that will just darken that off nicely like so. Quite dark, but it will soak into the ply hopefully. I've never used this before on this, so I've no idea what it's going to end up like, and we'll see once it's dry how it's going to look. It doesn't matter if we get it on there at all. Remember, we're going to cover that over, and we also need to get our sides bit done just the same. We get the general idea from that. I'll go and find a bigger brush, and we basically just cover this whole piece completely, and hopefully when we come back we'll be on to the next stage, which will be to spray some nice clear varnish on. I'll come back when this is done. Right, that dark teak wood dye is nicely dry now. We've done all our front, remember, and all the sides. And that's the original colour on the back. So, quite pleased with that one so far. Now the next stage for me is I like to spray varnish on. A couple of reasons. One, because I do like a nice shining finish on the wood itself. And two, with the varnish, because we are putting resin in here, and same if you're putting paint in, we need to seal the side walls of these routed out sections. You imagine this wood being made of straws, and we've cut across those straws, we're basically leaving that grain open. Now I personally don't have a lot of issue with pine and stuff, but some woods are worse than others. So there's wood sealant you can purchase. You basically like a milky colour, and you brush it in, and once it's dry, hopefully it's soaked into the side walls and sealed all those grain ends. And then when you put your paint in, it's not going to bleed into the side, and you won't get the nice crispy lines. Personally, I just spray varnish on, any cheap varnish, whatever's going at the time. I've got no preference, be it yacht varnish, gloss varnish, crystal clear, whatever's going at the time is what I use. And it's just a simple case of spraying like so. I will go outside and finish this off 3 or 4 coats, and hopefully that's enough to seal all these areas for when we put our resin or paint into. Right, we'll seal all this off, and then we're on to our resin time. Right, that spray's all nicely dry now, just to say give us a bit of a shine, and hopefully seal the side walls of the routed out bits. So now basically all we got to do is fill this in with resin, the outer ring, all around the dinosaur, and all the lettering. The resin today for me is just Vista 1. It's a 2-part resin like most resins are. This is a mix by volume, 1-to-1 mix. So whatever you're putting of A, you want exactly the same amount of B. Now I like to get myself some little plastic cups like these. These are just cheap plastic party cups. Get 100 for next to nothing. We mark off A for the resin, and how much we need. These have little markers on the side, little grooves. So I've gone up literally 5, let's say an inch. Excuse me, so an inch of A, and obviously an inch of B, your hardener, and you basically just mix the two together. Follow all your instructions, put your gloves on, put a nice mask on, plenty of ventilation. Once we've mixed our 2 resins, I want to add a bit of colour in. You can get dyes, inks, there's all sorts out there. I like to use acrylic paints. So just cheap acrylic paints like that. So we'll have a nice white for the lettering, red for the background. That is actually red. It shows up orange on this camera. That is red, and a nice yellow for the surround. We don't need a lot, so we just mix that in with a bit of resin. Basically start filling this in. I use these cheap plastic knife and fork sets. They're ideal for mixing with. Plus they have a nice little groove on the end here, so you can use that as a little scoop and just feed it round nice and slowly like so. And also get yourself oversized cocktail stick, and we use that just to feed it into these awkward places. So I'll mix this resin anyway, off camera, come back when we're ready to add our colour, and then we can start filling this one in. Right, there's all our resin nicely mixed. I'd rather mix small amounts and then add on than mixing too much and wasting it. I tend to have little sidelines going. So hopefully this is enough for our yellow first, and then we'll go through the same procedure with the red and with the white. So, like I said previously, just cheap acrylic paints. You don't need a lot. You can always add a little bit more than put too much on. And just show you a little bit on there. That's a little starter for us. I might want it a little bit darker. So we'll mix that in with the resin. You can see that lovely yellow coming through now. Give it plenty of mixing. You have plenty of time to work with your resin before you start panicking about things. So I want a little bit more in there. Could be a deeper yellow than that. So basically same again. There we go. And that should be enough. You don't want to over too much acrylic or any of your colourants, because it could alter the actual resin, how it sets and stuff. But I've certainly had no issues all the time I've used resin like this. Okay, that's near enough what I need. So it's just a case of filling all the outer circles first. This will be the hardest section. This bit won't be so bad. We can help it along with our cocktail stick. So I'm just going to use my little scoop there like so. If you're really good, you can go through it. I'm not prepared to. So I'm just going to take my time and just fill it in like so. It's a slow process, and you can do a bit, move along, do a bit more, and eventually it will all meet up with each other. Okay, you get the general idea from there. It is a slow process, but hopefully the end result will be worth the time taken. Right, I'll finish the yellow, then I'm going to the red, then the white, and we'll come back hopefully when this project's getting towards the end. Remember your little cocktail stick if you just want to help feed it across like that. Okay, we'll come back when this little project will be complete. Right, that's all we can do for now. You can see from that, we've basically got it all filled in nicely. So, as always, just skim over with your little lighter. Just get rid of any air bubbles. They'll soon come to the top. And you can do this a couple of times. And that's all we can do for now. So we'll put this to one side. I recommend getting a nice cover to go over the top of it, because you will get dust on it, hairs or anything. So we'll cover it up. We'll come back in 24 hours plus and we'll see what we've got left. Right, that's it. This little project is finished. Now it's been a good 24 hours later. Personally, I'll leave it for another couple of days just to make sure it's nice and solid. But you can see from that, we've got no issues. Nice and clean. If anything, I would rather that yellow have been a little bit brighter, but it is what it is. We can't complain about that, to be honest. So that's it. This little project is finished. So it measures in roughly at 19 inches by 12 inches high. We routed it out on 10mm plywood using CNC bits for the lines, but then did all our clear out with end milling bits, put on some nice dark teak, sprayed on varnish just to seal our side walls, and then we filled it in with resin mixed with acrylic paints. And you can see from that varnish, it's done its job because we've got no bleeding whatsoever. Everything's nice and crispy the way it should be. And that's it. This little project is finished. For hanging purposes, just a simple hook on the back. That's all you need. That's plenty with these little projects. There's no weight involved. And that's it. This little project is finished. Give it a go. Just have fun and enjoy yourself. Thank you very much for watching.